Hello friends, in today's video we'll see how to create interdependent date picker dialog for an Android mobile app. So for that, first we'll create an empty activity. We will name it as days between dates. In this example, we'll find out the days between two dates and we'll click on finish. We'll let the project load. So once the project is loaded, first we'll open the Gradle file. So in that, we'll open the app Gradle file and we will add dependency, a new dependency, which would be Joda time. And after adding this, make sure you click on sync now. So now that the file is in sync, we can close it. Next, we'll start the designing part of the app. So before that, we will go to this resource folder, right click on it and click on new. In that, we'll select vector asset and we'll search for downward arrow. So we need this icon to be added for the date picker. So what we are going to do is we'll have a button and in that button at the end we'll have an arrow, downward arrow. So I'm going to select this. You can select any other arrow which you like. So I'm going to select this and click on OK. And then we'll do next and finish. Okay. And here we are going to remove this and add the new design elements which we need for our project. So I'm just going to remove this. And I'm going to add, so I have already kept my code ready. I'll just explain what. Yeah. So you can see here now, this is the first button which we have added. So this is the button, we have set the background as transparent and we have added the downward arrow so that when the user clicks on this button, the date picker dialog appears. So a similar button we have created here. This button is for the from date and the next button is for the to date. So it will be the same thing. There's a button. We have set the background to be transparent. We have added arrow, downward arrow at the end. And then we have a text view which will display the result. So the days between the dates. And there's another button which we will use to calculate the days between two dates. So I think the design is clear now. Now we'll move to the Java part. So first we'll add the declaration of all the variables. So which will hold the design elements. So first two is the button from date to date. And then date picker dialog box. So we need two date picker dialogs and then we have button to find the days between and then the result text view. So after we have declared the variables for all the design elements and listener. Next, we will assign the design element IDs to these variables. So here we have assigned the design element IDs to their respective variables which we have declared above. Here we have assigned the design element IDs to the variables which we have created above. Next, we will be declaring calendars for the date pickers. So we will need two calendars, one from date and other for to date. And here we are also declaring an array which will be counting days, number of days. So the use of this array we'll discuss later, but just so that you know, we are going to use this variable and we have declared it. Next, we are going to define the date format which we will be using for our date picker. So here we have declared a date format which is date, month and year. So you can set as per your requirement. So here I am setting as date, month and year. Next, we will declare the date set listener for the date picker dialog of the first date, which is the from date. And from the date picker view, we pass the year, month and date which has been selected by the user. Here we add 1 to the month because the month is counted from 0 to 11. So to set the month right, we will be adding 1. And then we create a string with the date and we set the from date button text to be the date which has been selected by the user. The next step we'll be doing is the from date calendar which we had declared above. We are going to set that calendar's date also to the date selected by the user. So till here we are done. Next, what we are doing is we are finding out the min date. So minimum date of the date range is set. So from date would be the minimum date. So this date we are just converting the date which has been passed from the date picker to date time format. So we have just set some value for hours and minutes, and then we are going to save today's date in today variable. Now we will use this variable to find number of days between the from date to today. So the date range within which we can select the to date is one day after the from date to today. So that's why we are finding difference between these two and storing it in the array variable which we have declared previously. So this function helps us to get the days between these two dates, and then we will subtract 1 because the minimum date has been set as the from date. So you cannot have from and to date as the same. So that's why we are subtracting 1 from the number of days difference which we have got. This is the on-click event listener for the button from date. So what we want to do here is when the user clicks on the from date button, a date picker dialog box would pop up. So for that, first we are checking if the from date is already been set. So if the from date button text is empty, then the user has not selected the from date. So we can pop up the date picker dialog box with the today's date. using the from calendar date. And then we will check if the to date has already been set by the user or not. So if the to date is set, then days count would not be 0. So if the to date is not set, then the max date would be 1 day less than today. Else, if the to date is set, then the number of days count which we have calculated for the to date, based on that we set the maximum date for the from date calendar. And then we show the date picker dialog box. Next, if you see, if the from date has already been set by the user, so then in that case we have to show the selected date in the calendar. So we have to first get the date from the button text, split it into part, and then pass it to the date picker dialog box. So this would display the date which is already been selected by the user. Otherwise, it would always show the calendar with the today's date. So to avoid that, whenever if the user has already selected the from date, and then if the user clicks on the from date button, the pop-up calendar should show the selected date on the calendar. So for that we have used the string split. So here we will split the date and pass the relevant values to the date picker dialog. So if you can see here, we have split and we have passed date, month and year to the listener. Date picker dialog box. Sorry, date picker dialog box. So in a similar way, we are going to do the same thing for the to date. So in this, first we have the date set listener. So whenever a date is set, then we use that date to set the to date button text, and we also calculate days between the date which has been selected and today. So this would be the to date and today. And then we have the on-click event listener for the to date button. So here again if we are checking if the to date is already being set. If it is not set, then we will show the calendar with today's date, and if it is already selected by the user, then the selected date would be displayed in the dialog box. Next, here we are going to calculate the days between the two dates. So we are just getting the values from each of the buttons, doing the calculation over here, and then displaying on the text view result. So now we are ready and we'll run this code. So here you can see the output. So first, for instance, if we select the to date first and we set it to be 15th of December, click OK. So that would be displayed on this button. And from date, if I select 1st of December, so then we'll click on the days between button, and here we can see 14 days. So in this app, you can select from date first or to date first. In any way, the restriction would be there. So if you change the from date to date to, if you change the to date to 18th of December and click OK, now the from date option would be also increased till 18th December. So you can now select even 17th or you can select 8th. So based on the selection of the other date picker, you can fix the minimum date or maximum date of different date picker. I hope this video is helpful for you. Thank you.